also drives me crazy. I'm like, don't I?
We're live. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Whatever Show. I am Lawrence Winterman.
I am Dana Dubois. Good morning, Lawrence.
Good morning, Dana. That's my best friend.
That's my best friend.
Aw.
How are
Uh,
you?
I'm good. I'm good. I have a cat sitting on my lap. He is very happy to be here. He's a little bit in the way, but you know what? I'm gonna deal because both of my cats have turned into lap cats, and who could object to that?
No, that's awfully cute. I had a cat tragedy last night.
Oh no,
The
cat
cats are
tragedy,
fine. No, the cats are fine.
cat catastrophe.
A catastrophe. Yeah, they peed on my bed, Lawrence.
Oh no. Oh, that is not
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, they're escalating, or I think I know which cat it is. I have two, but I wasn't planning to talk about that on air. But yeah,
Ooh.
here's me, like I'm as always, like by the time I hit bedtime, I'm like, I am done. I've been going since this hour, bed, and I walk in and I'm like, my room smells weird. And then I was like,
Ugh.
all the nature's miracle out.
Oh
So
my God.
another
And yeah, like late night unexpected bedding
uh
laundry, that's like the worst.
we'll see if it helps or if I just have to burn everything. So that's my vibe this morning.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
My heart
I
goes out
know.
to you. Yeah, no, that's the worst. I've
Aging
been
diabetic cat. It's
womp womp.
yeah, it's not my favorite. Let's just say that. That is
Not
not my
good.
favorite. How are you? Yesterday was a very emotional but like very
My
awesome
eyes are
show.
watering, so it looks like I'm crying. Yesterday was super
Oh,
emotional. I was really, I was super touched that the chat kind of gave me the space to, unload about the ex-boyfriend, and I felt really loved and appreciated. And a couple people reached out to me. I need to write back to them. It was really sweet, and honestly, I feel better for having shared it. Like it was Melissa. It was super cathartic. Um,
good.
yeah, and like the ache of missing him kind of was not as intense yesterday, and I think that's because I got to say what I needed to say. I can't say it to him, but I got to say it, to a crowd of sympathetic people, and that was really amazing and therapeutic. So thank you to everybody
Good.
for holding space for that, and to you, Dana, for being my lifelong bestie who has listened to
Oh,
more boyfriend breakup stories from me than probably we could ever count.
you know, and you for me. I would guess you've probably heard me rant more because I'm more of a like every minute blow by blow. I need to talk about this. So we do this for each other.
Yes.
It was just it kind of like in a weird way, even though it wasn't me, like I was kind of glowing yesterday, being like, what an amazing community of people we have
Honestly,
here every morning. Like everyone was so supportive of you, and it just made my heart very happy. So
yes, it was
thanks to
great.
everyone. And
Yeah.
we are now 2 days behind on posting recaps. They will be coming. Sometimes the life is lifing.
Yeah. I mean, I had an insanely busy day yesterday. I know you did too. Like we will catch up. We promise. We're just
We we
uh
always do eventually.
in a moment of so much stuff to do that we're a little behind schedule. But
Yes.
I'm excited for today's guest.
Me too. This is a guest I have been reading for a while, and I've been like, will you please come on our
Right.
show?
A
Hi,
first
hi.
timer for us, not for her. She's been on many lives. I've seen her. But Dr. Allison Wiltz is joining us for the first time. And I always love it when somebody new to us is joining, because it's such a kind of sense of building this community bigger and meeting more great
Yes.
people on Substack. And, you know, yeah, so we're super excited. I feel like with that said, we should just bring
We
her
should
on
just
stage at
bring
this
her
point.
on. Yeah,
Dr.
elevating.
Wiltz, we're about to add you to the stage. Hello.
Good
Hi,
morning and welcome.
everyone.
Hello.
Good morning. First
Hi.
question, how would you like us to address you? Would you like to be Dr. Wiltz? Would you like to be Allison? Do you want it all
Either one.
together?
It doesn't when people are nice, I don't really insist on the doctor. You could call me Allison, that's fine. I tend to when the trolls show up, that's when it's like, no, it's gonna be doctor for you.
Right.
Completely fair. And like, man, if I'd ever earned a doctorate, I would have my children call me Dr. Mom. Everything would come out in front of it. Like,
Right?
Right.
bravo, bravo to you for that. But welcome to the Daily Whatever Show. Would you like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. My name is Dr. Allison Wiltz. If you're my friend or you're nice, you can call me Allison. Um, I am a Black writer, editor, and scholar, and I got my PhD last year. I did my dissertation focusing on attitudes towards race-based affirmative action policies, and while I was doing that research, it became banned. I'm probably most known for writing about racism. I've written over 1,000 essays on race, and I'm trying to collect some of my best hits and put them into a book. But other than that, I'm a leader of an organization for writers and editors of color. We uplift one another in that group, and I host weekly meetings on what we still call Twitter, and kind of do like a book club style thing.
Amazing.
That is amazing, and congratulations on your recent doctorate. The chat is definitely going crazy for you, saying congratulations. So that is amazing. That's got to be such a feeling of accomplishment. Well, but I'd imagine that it was a little conflicting too, right? That the thing that you are studying gets banned as you are actually finally achieving your goal. What was that?
Right.
I mean, I can imagine that
it was stressful.
Yeah.
Because at that point I had already written my proposal, and my proposal had been accepted. And so I was working on my literature review, which is chapter 2. That's the most, I guess, tedious version, of it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And my teachers kind of let me know that if you were starting today, we wouldn't allow you to pursue this topic. And so I just felt like I just need to stay committed and stay on it. I would have had to start all over again and find a new research topic, which if I had to, I would have substituted it for attitudes towards diversity, equity, inclusion programs. I think that's appropriate too. Sure. But with the way things are going, that might have gotten banned. While you never know what the Supreme Court will do with that eventually, because the way it seems to be heading, those type of programs may not even be legal in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems that things are going that way, right? I mean, there are, you wrote an article not too long ago about the kind of de-blackifying of journalism, kind of writ large in this country right now.
Yes.
The Washington Post and the New York Times. I can't imagine what it feels like as a person of color to be living through this moment and seeing all of the work that has been done for the last many decades just get sort of ripped away. I think I would just be like vomiting rage every moment. And I think,
well, that's what Baldwin said. Baldwin said to be intelligent and to be a Negro in this country, you're going to be pissed at all times, because that's what awareness will create when you're aware of how unfair it is. This is why I'm so big on independent journalism, because a lot of people I know, I don't usually pitch to big stories. They might pick up some of my stories, but I don't pitch to them. I think that they use Black people for a moment, but they're not really committed to shedding light on our issues, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It completely makes sense.
So I mean, I think, like, my hypothesis, I think something we've talked about here before, is that Substack is a place where many communities are being able to kind of find and build their own organic, independent, like, journalism networks. And I mean, I see that happening, right? Like, we've had Marlon Weems and Karen Attia on the show before, and folks who it seems like are starting to build bases of support on Substack,
right?
And kind of advance towards something bigger. How do you envision that kind of moving forward? Like, is it I guess maybe I'll stop hypothesizing and actually let you answer the question.
Well, yeah, I've started my writers community, writers and editors of color, because we found out that because we're marginalized communities, it would say if all 13% of Black people supported something, that still wouldn't be enough to make it go viral. In order for anything to go viral, technically you need white buy-in. And so to try to kind of override that impediment, we decided to boost one another, to read and support and boost one another as a way to fight back against this idea that most of our stuff is never going to bubble up to the top. I think Substack offers a great community. I've seen it grown. I haven't really been on Substack as much as I've been on Medium and on Twitter, but I love it. I'm actually a friend of Marlon Weems. He's in the group that I stated. He's in leadership at the Writers and Editors of Color. And he's such an amazing person. And he's been growing the network here. Also, Arturo Dominguez, who's another person who I knew.
Yeah, Arturo.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Arturo. Yeah, but yeah, we have been like blossoming communities, but we try to keep it genuine. Like there's some weird writers communities that are like follow for follow, read for read. And we just kind of encourage each other to, like, if someone's saying something that's really interesting to you, show them some love. So, you know, show them some support, you know, and I think that that goes a long way in terms of making a community. And also I think that Substack has some really unique tools because we can do the video, we can do the audio. You can actually do the little small notes or the expanded long pieces. And I do like the platform. I think that it's really helpful for free speech and to fight against a lot of the fascist policies that are, you know, under the Trump regime. I don't even like calling them an administration anymore because it's like, you know, their regime. You know, because to me, if you're planning on trying to stay in office for another term, then I'm not going to think of you as a normal American politician. You are a fascist.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
So yeah. So I think one of the things I would say. Oh, I just want to add this one part. I would say that I feel like the reason why fascism is on the rise, one of the reasons why fascism is on the rise here is because of the neglect of the civil rights issues. So by allowing some citizens to be targeted, like Black people, like immigrants of color, what it's done is it's opened the door for these type of policies that are going to hurt everyone. But it's like, because there wasn't enough buy-in when only the marginalized groups were involved, now it's like we're at broader risk of just losing it all. And so I hope that people learn the lesson, and I hope we could do something about it, you know.
Allison, I could not agree more. So I have this theory. People who've been, you know, are in the chat who've been with us know that I've talked about this a lot. I feel like our generation, you know, and Dana and I talk about this a lot. Our generation, I feel like the idea, we have to process the trauma that we have experienced, not just as individuals, but as communities and as a country, right? And so a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I had Marlon on the show, and we talked about reparations because I want to talk about it. I think if we don't have the courage to confront the trauma that exists in this country, the very fundamental trauma of the Black communities and the Indigenous communities, if we can't talk about healing that and like coming to terms with it, then we're going to be stuck in this cycle of violence and oppression over and over and over again. Like, we're not doing the work of processing the trauma.
We need to make it clear that fighting for racial equality is actually the pro-American position. And the evidence of that, and I would argue that there's two Americas, right? There's the one that I'm a part of in the South that never really got over losing the Civil War. And doesn't believe Black people and immigrants of color and all these other people should have rights equal to theirs. And then you have this part of America, that this multiracial coalition that arose during the Civil War, you know, on the side of the Union, that really wanted a different type of America, type of America where the color of your skin wouldn't prevent you from fully participating. And I feel like those two Americas have always been at odds. And while they have switched political parties, right, because originally the Republicans were the party of abolition and of reparations, you know, so they've switched, but the ideology is what we should really be looking at rather than the name of a party, to understand there's just been this back and forth. And I do worry that even though the Democrats haven't won the majority of white votes since the Civil Rights Act, that they still kind of search for these voters that actually are antithetical to having like a unified front, because a unified front can't be one where Black people getting killed by the police at 3 times the rate is no big deal, right? How is that unifying, right? Yep. Unifying should be like, let's make sure that no one's left out. And I would always say that paying reparations is smart for America, because racial injustice has actually cost the United States trillions of dollars. And also the intergenerational effects of slavery can only be addressed through reparations. And I think that, like, if you make the weakest link, right, the most impoverished group of people be able to participate, then what are you going to do? That means more Black people will be able to buy homes, cars. So I would say that even though capitalism often perpetuates anti-Blackness, I would also say that racism interferes with capitalism, because it makes people not just think about the dollars, they think about who's going to benefit, and they don't want Black people to benefit. I mean, I always joke that's why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, there have been studies that have looked at the amount of money, I think people kind of hear the amount of money that would be involved in like a true reparations package, and their brains melt, right? But there have been plenty of studies now that have shown that by injecting that much money into the economy, and like you said, making it so that like entire groups of people could buy into the economy in big ways, like home ownership, you'd actually be generating an equal or more greater amount in the economy. Like, it would pay for itself, and we would be healing this trauma. Like, I just don't get why this isn't a part of our conversation.
Right. And also, I would expand it to reparations is not just about dollars. It's about ensuring that we have laws and policies in place that are going to prevent racism from persisting, such as Black women dying in hospitals at 3 times the rate on national average, 4 times the rate down here in Louisiana, and 4.5 times the rate in Alabama. So when you look at that, like, we have to address racism in all the different ways that it's manifesting. And I would also say that there's this assumption that there would have to be just one lump check. The problem is we don't even get to have constructive discourse about it, because Congress has refused to take up HR 40 to investigate it and let us have the national discussion on what would be appropriate. For example, some people have suggested that Black people shouldn't pay taxes for a certain amount of years, for example. That's one way. Another way would be to, in addition to cash payments, to also offset that with opportunities, education, and business wise, or to do the actual original promise, which is give us our acres.
40 acres and a mule.
And what a lot of people don't understand, and this is like an important point, what people don't understand is that those reparations were actually a grant. So you were going to actually have to work the land for a certain amount of years, and then it would become yours. A lot of people just assume, oh, Black people just want something for free. Well, actually, that never even was the radical Republicans, because that's what they were called at the time, radical Republicans that wanted Black people to have reparations. So I just think it's really interesting. I see history. The more I study history, the more I see how important it is to understanding today. And that's why they're attacking Black history, because they're afraid if people figure out that we're stronger together, that will weaken their plan to subjugate some people.
Absolutely. And I think even going back to the American Revolution, right, and the founding of this country, to realize how integral Black folks were to the founding and the freedom of this nation, and the promises that were made and not kept even in the Revolutionary War, it does change the way that you perceive the history of this country and the obligations that we have towards each other and for each other.
Right.
Like, yeah. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad that we get a chance to talk about this. And I'm sorry for like hijacking it to reparations right off the bat, but
no, I love it. I love it because I feel like more white people should feel comfortable about talking about it. And people that want to learn more about it, I would recommend the book From Here to Equality. It is a really good book written by scholars, and most pro-reparationists are kind of aligned with this version of how it would go down. And one of the most interesting parts is how they explain that it wouldn't increase taxes, right? And so one of the things I love about the book is it kind of debunks these myths that, like, for example, a lot of white people assume only white people would be paying, when in reality, this is coming from the federal government, which we've all paid and contributed to through our taxes, and Black people have disproportionately. Like, so this one study came out last year showed that between 11 and 20% of the economic growth in the 1850s to 1860s could be tied back to slavery. We were actually, our enslavement was the first big business before there was even the railroad, or before there was big steel. There was big cotton and big sugar, and all these, and tobacco and all these industries
and rice in South Carolina. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, like, we're living with like the way I've explained it, we're living with the intergenerational effects of racism, because a lot of people don't understand that. They think to themselves, well, I came to this country, my family came to this country with nothing, right? But they don't understand that actually there's something worse than coming with nothing. Imagine coming and being treated as property. And then when slavery ended, right? If you read this book, Sick from Freedom, it's about the fact that there were 4 million Black people that became free at the end of the Civil War, and 1/4 of them died within the first decade of their freedom from starvation and illness because reparations weren't provided. So a lot of times we talk about just the economic impact, but there was actually a social impact to saying no to those reparations. It wasn't just like, oh, well, they just went about their business. No, many died. A good amount of people. There would be more Black people in this country today if not for that, right? And then after Reconstruction, that's when Jim Crow started. My granduncle had his house bombed by the Klan twice. So to us, especially in the South, this is not ancient history. This is something we live with. Most of the people in New Orleans, the city I live in, are very poor. You know what I mean? And we actually depend on federal changes to change down here, because locally, sadly, not much does.
Yeah. I didn't realize you were in New Orleans. I love that city.
Yeah,
so in reading your article about kind of journalism and the anti-Blackness that we're seeing in journalism now, the memory flashed into my mind. I don't. You're pretty young, so I'm not sure you remember this, but do you remember during Hurricane Katrina, Wolf Blitzer was on CNN and he was talking, they were showing, the visuals of the destruction and the devastation. And Wolf Blitzer said on live TV, he was like, look at these people. They're just so poor and so Black. And, did we lose your audio? Dana, can you hear me?
I hear you just fine, Lawrence. I don't hear Dr. Wiltz, though. I think we've lost you. Allison, come back. I can tell she hears me.
Yeah, that's crazy. We can tell that you can hear us, but suddenly we can't hear you.
Is it working now?
Oh, yeah, there you are.
Okay. Yeah, my bad. I was just saying, I do remember that segment, and I remember them calling us looters and refugees and all that. I asked my mom, I said, what's a refugee? I said, I thought that was somebody from a different country. And she was like, well, they're calling us refugees because we can't live where we're from right now because the city has to be rebuilt. And, the coverage was definitely racist because white people, everyone was just trying to survive, right? And from a business perspective, like, who cares that your store is flooded? Let's start there. Your entire store is flooded. Whatever inventory in here cannot be realistically used. You know what I mean? And so people were going in there and they had lost everything, and people were taking food, diapers. They even had a video of a police officer who was taking diapers out the store. So it wasn't just Black people. And as much as they call us poor, well, let's talk about why we're poor, right? Yeah. The poverty and the racial wealth gap is the way it is because of how big slavery was here. And we've never, there's been nothing done by the city, state, or the federal government to remedy that. So of course you're going to be poor when there's a system designed to keep you down. Like, they had a school during the Reconstruction era that was actually burned to the ground here, and it actually took them 50 more years to actually build another school that others could access, so that Black people could attend. So it's like, what's been done here has been so heinous that it really does make sense to me why we're poor. But I guess from the outside looking in, and when you live in a society where they just want to blame you for the condition you're in, they definitely made me grow up because I was 17 at the time. And, you know, people, when we were to, even in Baton Rouge, just an hour away, the people seemed to be very upset that we were there, that we had to go to their schools. Every problem from traffic to crime, it was everything was just blamed on us, and it was just horrible. And while white people have done well in New Orleans after Katrina, Black people have not. We have not economically recovered from what's been done to us, and I don't know if that day's ever going to come, really.
Right. I mean, I definitely it was that moment, like watching CNN in that moment. I remember it so vividly. I was making tuna fish, and he said that, and I was just like, "You racist motherfucker!" Like I literally went and stood in front of the TV, and I was like, "Who's gonna fire him?" Like I fully expected that they were gonna fire him in that moment because it was so obviously racist, and then I started really watching because, as a white man who grew up in this white patriarchal society, like I've had to learn over the years. And I really started watching the coverage after that. And like you said, Allison, like people looting, I was like, of course, it's a grocery store. They're starving. Like,
who among us would not go take groceries in a smashed
exactly? Who among us wouldn't go try to feed your family?
Meanwhile, there were bodies in the water
floating
around. Even the bodies of old people, kids, all ages. It was dirty. You didn't have any clothes. People didn't have water, food. And honestly, it did feel like at that moment, like the government really just didn't care what happened to people. And so when society breaks down, and then there was also racism. Like in my neighborhood of Algiers, there actually was this group of white men. They were shooting at these Black men who were trying to cross through Algiers Point to get to the ferry. Now on the radio, they told citizens, you can go to the ferry and that's going to be an evacuation route right after the storm. But as they were trying to go through, they set up a barricade and said they were going to shoot anybody darker than a brown paper bag. And he actually did shoot Black men. So that's, and then when you tried to leave my community to go into the other side towards Jefferson Parish, they were shooting people. They were shooting Black people on the bridge for just trying to cross over to a different parish. For those who don't know, we use parishes instead of counties, but it's just right next to New Orleans, like 5-minute drive. But if they were trying to cross, and people were getting shot. So not only were people lose all their material stuff and don't have the resources they need, but they were also literally being hunted down and hurt by people who were taking advantage of the fact that the police were overwhelmed.
Oh my God. I did not hear that story. That was not one that made the national news. Thank you for sharing it. And what an atrocity on so many levels. I'm sorry that you've had to live through that, and that you and your community haven't fully rebounded. I hope you are doing okay. Hold on,
and Trump wants to get rid of FEMA. Trump wants to get rid of FEMA. And I can just tell you that honestly, we would be even way worse off if it weren't for FEMA. FEMA did make a lot of mistakes after the storm, and I think it's because they were kind of a newer department, and it was under George Bush, and it was a lot of incompetence. But the idea of FEMA is important because it's a federal emergency department. So that means if you have a hurricane, a tornado, they're going to come in and they're going to help the local and state governments to try to, supplement the money they don't have to repair and kind of move forward. Without that relationship for the federal government, it's just really disrespectful, because it's like, well, what are the people in Florida, Louisiana, the Carolinas, what are we going to do when the next storm comes if you're saying we're just on our own? And it feels like he's setting it up to kind of get this quid pro quo with all the governors. In other words, like when something bad happens, they're going to have to like, please help us, please help us. And it shouldn't be that way, because we're Americans. We shouldn't have to beg for assistance when something bad happens. So I hope that when people do kind of reflect on Katrina, I just wish that I could say that with confidence that things will be better today, but I really don't feel that way, unfortunately.
Oh God.
Leadership.
No, I think way worse. Like I live in Seattle, and I'm gonna like knock to say this of like, oh my God, if there's a hurricane, I mean, right now there's an atmospheric river coming through, not where I live, but the surrounding areas are flooding. I'm like, oh, the federal government's just gonna let us rot. Like there's no way they're gonna have like a big
Y'all
blue
gonna
bubble like Seattle.
be on top of the roofs. Y'all gonna be on top of the roofs trying to draw something and
Right.
get somebody's attention.
Or
And
under
I
the house if it's an earthquake.
turn on Trump. I want us to just move on. I never thought this was going to last this long. The first
Right.
presidency, I was like, okay, a mistake was made. Let's move on.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm starting to really lose faith that people want to move on from him. And it's
Yeah.
like, how disappointing do you have to be? Like, he disappoints every group of people and disrespects every group of people. Like, he doesn't care about poor white people. He doesn't even care that much about some rich white people unless you're his friend. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. He's an autocrat. And I can't wait till more people can like say that with confidence and we can move on. Like, I hope that people understand, like, we're going to have midterms and I hope to try to limit his power as much as possible with my vote. Not that it might matter that much because I'm in Louisiana, but, you know, and I just hope that people are willing to kind of, let's imagine what does life look like after Trump? Because it's such a depressing time. I always try to encourage everyone I know, yeah, this is going on right now, but I want to focus on what does the new society look like? Like, if we're able to come together and say what we don't like about Trump, we should also be able to have like a proactive agenda, like how the Republicans had Project 2025. I don't think we need to name it after a year, but we do need, because honestly, I feel like a year is kind of problematic anyway, because look at how white people were acting towards racism in 2020 versus 2025.
Yep.
So if we just do a 1 year type plan, that could be easily abandoned. I think that we need, like, I guess, like a renewal of the social contract and like a public debate about what that should mean. Like, should we be dying in hospitals if we're poor? Like that sort of thing. Like, we need to understand, you know, what are our options? Because this can't be it. I'm 37. And so I've suffered enough under Trump. Like, I want us to move on.
Yeah, I completely agree. I want to point out Nick Perro's in the chat, and he has been talking about, I think he's calling it the Tricentennial Project now, of like we're not just looking 5 years ahead. Like, let's look to 2076. Let's look to the 300th anniversary of this country, right? What do we want that country to be like? What do we want America to be? You know, and then do the big social projects that we need to do to move towards that, which is, you know, let's dismantle the patriarchy. Let's talk about post-capitalism, you know, let's talk about being able to empower more people to be, you know, economically empowered across the board. What would that look like? You know, healthcare for everybody, right? Nobody dies in the hospital because they're poor. That's ridiculous.
There's so many ways in which I think language matters, and you're doing some really excellent framing here of, I think we need to have, we've said this before, like very simple messages that resonate with everyone. And I love the idea, like no one should die because they can't afford healthcare. Like that's something that resonates with everyone. And if I may, there's so many great comments about Katrina that I'm tempted to read from the chat first, but I actually really want to pivot and talk about another story of yours. And it was the one about pregnant women and pregnant Black women and how much more risk there is simply being Black when entering the hospital as a woman in labor. I have 2 kids. I have entered a hospital in labor, and that like, I have never felt so much pain or so vulnerable in my life. I'm going to actually go grab the link here. But while I am grabbing it, I would love for you to give some kind of background for those in the audience who maybe haven't seen this story of why you wrote this story and why it's so important.
So, you know, what's ironic about, one of the things that's ironic about the pro-life movement from conservatives is that they don't seem to care about the lives of Black people, and especially Black women who are pregnant, which is really interesting. So I love that it just shatters that they're not really pro-life, they're forced birth. But all of this has left Black women worse off, because as it stands on a national average, we are 3 times as likely as white women to die from pregnancy-related complications. So it's called maternal mortality, right?
Yeah, I want to underline that 3 times more likely. Like, that's horrifying.
And 4 times in Louisiana and 4.5 times in Alabama. So it's like, what research shows is that in places where slavery was pervasive, that rate is higher, right? And so ultimately what it does is it makes pregnancy not as much a joy, but also like a worry. Like you
Right.
worry if you're going to lose your friend or if you're going to lose your mom. And you know, and I also think that my background from the case was seeing that woman. It was like a viral video of her crying out in pain in the hospital. And
Yeah,
you
I saw
know,
that video.
and then there was another one right after that. And the woman, and once they sent her away, she had a baby. She had to have the baby on the side of a road. With her husband helping to give birth. And all of this could have been avoided if they just took her pain seriously. She was like moaning in pain, screaming, uncomfortable in her chair. And their response was just to stick to the protocol, keep asking her questions like they were a robot. And that was really dangerous to me because technology, you know, when I was younger, I just always thought about technology as a good thing, that it was going to make the world better. But when doctors and healthcare professionals are so much focused on reading a script, you know, instead of actually listening to the concerns of the patient that's right here in front of you, then people fall through the cracks. And one of the most heartbreaking parts about the research for this problem is that many of the deaths could have been prevented, because that's what shocked me. I thought to myself, well, unfortunately, maybe that's just the way the world's set up. But then when you learn that these women's lives could have been saved, then you start realizing that this is a serious issue and that it's something that we can make progress about. But I think that it's hard because society already disrespects women, and already in this country, even amongst white women, the rate of maternal mortality is too high. And that's something a lot of white women don't get either. Is like, even though we're bringing it up that we are more hurt by this, you guys are still hurt by this. And so that means that it's an issue that all women have to be concerned about, because we shouldn't have to fear that experience, especially with the technological advancements that we have. We should be able to make women feel comfortable, respected during that very vulnerable time. So I guess me writing it was just a frustration that not much has changed. I mean, as you know, the father of gynecology did experiments on Black women. A lot of the knowledge the medical knowledge we have about women's bodies today, you know, experimenting on enslaved Black women without anesthesia, because it all goes down to the racism, right? The racial stereotype was that Black people's skin is tougher and that they don't feel pain. So when you put that into a policy, what it looks like is torturing Black women.
Right.
In the end, I learned that the more I read into it, I learned more about Sims, and he gave the women, he gave them something afterwards for the pain, morphine. And so a lot of them became addicted to morphine because he would torture them, right? Their genitals, you know, and I know that's horrible to say, but that's what he was doing. He was torturing their genitals, doing experiments, and then he would give them medicine, and the medicine was their only comfort. And these women could not consent because they were enslaved people. And I feel like I forgot what scholar said it, but they said that the benefits from this like process has disproportionately benefited white women rather than Black women, because once again, when we go to the hospital, then despite a lot of this knowledge being obtained through experimenting on women that look like us, we're not seen as valuable. And it's sad because I feel like a lot of white healthcare professionals probably think to themselves, I'm not racist, right? But sometimes this bias is operating on such a subconscious level that you may not realize that you are treating people differently. But when we look at the numbers, right? Because a lot of times we don't want to hurt people's feelings. But when we look at the numbers that show that Black women are consistently more likely to die of maternal mortality, then at some point we have to have a conversation about intent. And one last point I would make is that, because this is something that surprised me in doing the research on this, sometimes people think it's about class, right? They're like, oh, well, that's because these Black women happen to be poor. It's not because they're Black. But research actually—
This part was so interesting in your story. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Right.
Yeah, so Black women, well, people think that it's all about class, but really they found out that Black women with a college degree were more likely to die in the hospital than white women without a high school diploma. So if we're going to look at it in terms of class, obviously this is not just a class problem, because then poor white women would be dying at the same rate, and that's not happening. And also another research study showed that in terms of insurance, because I even assumed this, I assume, well, a lot of them might not be insured, so they don't have access to preventative care. But what they found is there actually wasn't a difference in terms of their access to Medicaid or regular healthcare insurance. And I thought that was fascinating, because I had always told myself that the money could solve this, right? If we just threw money at the problem, it would solve this. If these women were more educated, it wouldn't happen to them. But I think that's the most devastating part, is that it could be solved, but it's not being solved. And a lot of Republicans, anytime we try to pass maternal health care bill in Congress, they call it the Black Omnibus health care bill. Every time we try to pass that, the Republicans say, oh, well, they don't want to focus on race, right? They don't want to focus on race. But what do we do when the statistics over and over and over again for generations, for decades? Right. And one last thing, because talking to you made me flip.
I love you're all fired up. Keep going.
One study showed that the rate of Black infant mortality was like in between 1% and 2% higher. But guess what the research showed now? Now the rate of Black infant mortality is over 2 times. It's 2.5 times. So technically, the rate of Black infant mortality in this country right now is higher now than it was during slavery. When that hit me, I thought to myself, well, so many people have the misconception that just because it's a long time ago, certainly things have gotten better. But then when you actually dig into the research on these topics, you start to realize, wow, in some respects, things have gotten worse. And they certainly haven't gotten better, unfortunately.
The thing that's so crazy making as you're saying all of this is that I'm like, right, so much of this comes down to bias, whether conscious or unconscious bias. The way to address that is through DEI initiatives and education, and that whole part of the cycle that had finally really been born in the last decade, at least in my experience where I live, the places where I've worked, I saw over time, because Lawrence and I are Gen X, so we've been working in adults for decades now. I really saw this positive change of racial bias, or just bias, interrupting bias became a training that everyone had to take at work. And there was a part of my Gen X brain that was like, I roll, do I really have to sit and take this class for 30 minutes? And I'm now like, God damn it, I can't believe that work started and then it all got pulled back because, it was a short interruption of my workday. It's probably saved a lot of lives. And now so many are suffering for it. It's just maddening, isn't it?
Trump doesn't even want this type of research to be done. And as I talked to you about with my research, and so I think, some people just tell me, well, Allison, I don't want to focus on race. I don't want race to matter. But what they don't understand is if we actually don't solve the problem. Oh, hold on.
No worries. I'll get it.
My computer went haywire. Okay.
It was ringing through your computer. You know what's so funny, Allison, is my phone does the same thing, and I thought it was my phone. I kept looking at it.
I was like my phone, what are you doing to me? What are you doing? But I hope more people are curious to learn about the problems and about the lasting effects of racism. But that's what I was going to say. People that want to have a colorblind ideology, what they don't understand is if we stop talking about race before we fix racism, then all we're doing is burying the problem. If we stop accounting for race in our research, then how will we know that Black women are 3 times or 4 times more? Avoiding the problem is not the same as solving it. And I just say that.
Well, and this is why I am so passionate about talking about reparations and really big items like that, because if we're not moving the conversational window, we talk about the Overton window a lot of what's allowed to be talked about. And, reparations has not been allowed to be talked about in this country for a very long time. And I want us to be out there having the conversation so that we can say okay, well, if we're not doing full-blown reparations, can we at least look at the data and try to fix the areas where the data shows that things are not working, right? Because it's a way of, I don't want to compromise. I want to go for full-blown reparations. But if we had to compromise, at least it's moving the conversation away from
progress. We should be making progress.
Right. We should at least be making progress. Yeah.
Right. But I think we're living in an anti-intellectual era, an anti-science era. Look at who's over the health in this country. Somebody who believes, mythology, someone who believes fairy tales, who doesn't even respect the process of conducting research. And he would know that
Vaccines do not cause autism. There is no evidence that that's true. Tylenol does not cause autism. I think part of it is like the further we go towards like a ethno-nationalist state, right, of white supremacy, like the further we go down this rabbit hole, because we're kind of like retreating back into that old part of America.
Yep.
The more we do that, what it does is, you know, under Nazi ideology and all these other people, they don't like disabled people. They don't like, they equate work with value.
Yep.
And so when you start to equate someone's ability to labor with their value, then it becomes really easy for them to dismiss disabled people. And so that's why they're just trying to blame autism on something instead of understanding that, you know, the human brain is very complex. We as people are very complex. And let's not demonize people because their brain functions differently. Let's ensure that they're living, because the whole goal of psychology, we're not just trying to make you normal or make you conform. The whole goal, what psychologists try to do, is to try to like break down those barriers that prevent people from being able to be their full selves, right? To be able to be present in their full self. So the question shouldn't be, or you know, why are there so many autistic people? The question should be, what is the quality of life for disabled people and autistic people that have cognitive disabilities? Because I think if we focus on their quality of life and let's meet their needs, right? What are autistic people saying that they need, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the disrespectful part. It's like they're pretty much just saying over and over again, we don't want people to be born that are like you, but they're not caring about these actual individuals. It's like they're discarding them. And that's a very dangerous space to start treating people like that. That's why I think I don't think someone's worth should be tied to their ability to work. A couple of weeks ago, I sprained my leg for the first time in my life, and I feel a lot better now. But during that time, I'm hopping around the house on crutches, and if I was still working at a restaurant at that time, I wouldn't have been able to go to work. Right. I wouldn't have been able to make money. Does that make me not valuable? The second I can't work, I'm not valuable. That's dangerous. I think that we should have we should value people simply because they're human, right? And of course, if you do something good, you should be rewarded or you should feel good for that, especially if you're contributing to society. But the people that can't contribute as the same as other people shouldn't be diminished. And I learned that when I was younger. I worked at the Magnolia School. It's a school for developmentally disabled adults. And just like how you had to take the class for the diversity, they made us take a class and learn about the American Disabilities Act and this movement in the civil rights and why it's important to treat people with dignity. And that program, they had a supported living program, a vocational program, and group home. So they gave people options of how they wanted to live, and then they tried to support them in that life choice. And I feel like the way Trump does it, the way Trump and all his little goons do it, is they just make it seem like if you're disabled, you don't deserve to live. Like, we don't want you to have food. We don't care about anything. And I think that's a dangerous, I think that's like anti-American, and it's also like anti-human, you know?
Yeah. No, so thank you for saying the phrase anti-human, because I think it's an important frame that we should be putting on conversations like this, that what Trump and his Nazi allies are doing is anti-constitutional and it is anti-human. Like, they are showing through their actions that they don't care about actual human people, right? Yeah. And we could tie this into the whole AI thing too. AI is fundamentally anti-human because it's not valuing, you know, the contributions of people, and it's taking jobs away from people who, you know, we've built a society that is entirely capitalist. You need a job to live. So I think it's such an important frame and such an important
AI centers are polluting our communities. Like when I remember when Grok first came out, people, the racists used to like Grok, right? Everything flipped on them. Oh, that was so funny. So they loved Grok at first, like the thought of it. They're like, ask Grok. Like, I would say something that's just basic knowledge, and they'll ask Grok, is this true? And Grok would just be burning them up. And so at first I kind of thought it was funny how, you know, they're understanding the world because it's so myth-based that when they hear something real, they assume, oh, she's lying. And then they look into it for themselves and they find out the truth. But what made me stop using it altogether was when I learned about the harm it was causing to a Black community in Memphis, Tennessee, and like specifically Grok. And so you're right, it takes away.
What was that? I don't think I've heard that story. What was the harm?
Yeah. So in a predominantly Black area in Memphis, nearby is an AI data center. And this is Elon Musk monster Grok. That's what he calls his AI. So,
yeah.
And every time somebody uses Grok, it is poisoning that community because it's making those turbines go wild. And also, I read some stuff that suggests they might have broken the law because there's only so many turbines that they asked for on their permit, and they have actually, and investigators actually found that they were actually had more turbines there. So it's like they weren't honest about that, and and just like I could relate to it because in Louisiana we have Cancer Alley. So that's the 80-mile stretch from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. They have so many factories. They kind of replaced the plantations. Like a lot of the plantations became petrochemical plants, and they poison Black people. And that area has the highest rate of cancer in the country. And even the United Nations has talked about it. So when I look at AI, I look at it like they're going to turn every state into what Louisiana is going through, and that's the terrifying part about it. It's not going to just affect Black people either, because look at how many data centers they want to build. It's only so many. We're only 13%, so even if we're treated as a dumping ground for where we put the pollution, that has a max point, at which that point white people are gonna have to be exposed to it. But by then it will already be so entrenched into our life that's why I say it's best to act now. It's best to act before it gets worse, because once it gets worse, I mean, literally from the end of the Civil War to the end of Jim Crow was 100 years. Like we see that these errors of like a downward spiral can actually last a very long time if we don't step in. And so I definitely think, I'm glad y'all said that about AI. I do think it's anti-human. Like I actually didn't read some books that I saw at Barnes and Noble. They had this sale a couple of months ago. Like, how we are as readers. It doesn't matter how many books we have, we want more. So I went there for the sale. Most of the book covers I was disgusted to see were kind of like with AI art. Yeah. And even if it was like something profound in there, I was going to miss out on it, because something about seeing that art, it really bothers me. Like everything's too shiny and polished. And it is like I never, before this happened, I never thought I would see something and kind of detect it as inhuman. Right. But the products that it creates are just very dangerous. And also, as somebody who just finished my degree, I definitely think that it's messed up what it's doing to students, because what it's going to do is, if you rely on AI, you're preventing yourself from kind of practicing your critical thinking skills. And, I just think that, what are you going to do if the internet goes out? Like, what if in 20 years from now, we have like a big outage? Are you just going to not know anything? Like, because we know how to go to, I'm like one of the last generations, like we went to the library to do research for school. And, I worry about the impact AI is having. Also, when it comes to women, a lot of men are using AI to create deep fakes of women, either doing sexually lewd things or like imagining what their body would look like. And that has been very, the people even Taylor Swift, that happened to, you know what I mean? And she had the power to say, take that off. I remember it got taken off the internet so fast that I didn't even see anybody, posting it. I just heard about it. But for everyday women that don't have that type of power, men use their likeness and create those videos. And that's it's a new form of harassment. And I don't know. I feel bad for the people that it's happened to so far.
Yeah, it's that alarming feeling of like not knowing if what you see will be real. Like right now, I feel like for most of the time there is that uncanny like, I can see that it's AI.
At some point.
And as an editor and writer myself, I can mostly detect it. There are times when you're reading and you're like, that is AI. And but there are other times when it's becoming so good that you can't. And visually, I'm sure it's on that same path. So, I mean, yeah, it's a complicated, weird point in time we are.
We grew up in an era where video meant something. If you got somebody on video, oh, that meant something.
Right. You had the proof. You had the receipts.
Nowadays, if I'm in court, like imagine if you're a jury and we already know that cops lie. We already know that they are, they manufacture evidence. So what happens with that type of scenario in AI, where the police officer could say, you know what, I'm going to alter this video to make it seem like the defendant or the assailant had a gun and they didn't, or something like that, or face swap someone. Because I actually, anytime somebody does something weird with a picture I have, I always block them. Like they had somebody that was just like, I had like a picture of my hair curly, and they just were took it and they put it in an AI and we're just doing something weird with it. And I was just like, nope, block.
Oh, yeah,
I'm like,
no. Block
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And
Don't-
how
That's
important
crazy.
has the rise of the, you know, the video in our hands been for racial justice? Like there was a while there where it was like,
Yes.
oh, we can't help but believe Black voices now because they're
We
showing
can
us.
see it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was what, I mean, George Floyd, that was all captured on video. And even just a few years ago, there was this sense of like, well, this is real. It's video, it's captured.
Right.
And you're right, we're on the cusp of utterly losing that, where anybody can make something
Any
look real.
claim. Right. I mean, and even the federal government is like, Trump is one of the most absurd individuals. I can't believe under his administration, like he's brought like a level of like, it's so juvenile. It's
Yes.
ridiculous. Like the stuff he posts online, the stuff that his administration posts, they use AI images
Yeah.
to
Him all muscular,
yeah.
him as like Hercules. It's
They
so
use-
laughable.
They used the AI picture to make it seem like some Black guys did something they didn't. So it was like
Mhm.
basically these guys, they were young Black and they were wearing their little ski masks. They were like doing dances and stuff, and they were pretty much saying it was like back a couple of months ago when Iran, we were having a conflict with Iran, and they were
Oh, I
being
remember that.
being weirdly patriotic. Like I would never just go hard for America. I'm sorry, but they were like, oh, if Iran's coming, then basically we got the smoke for you, right? Like they were kind of like saying we're tough guys or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if the feds did it or if they just got a hold of a manufactured video, but the video was changed and it was threatening ICE. It said something about the cartels told the Black people that there are like that they have a hit on ICE, that they'll pay for ICE people to be killed. And
Right.
that wasn't true at all. And what was so disturbing is because the young Black man who was in the video, like he immediately came out and said, whoa, no, that's not what we said at all. And if you look at a lot of his videos on TikTok, it's just like him like laughing and hanging out with his friends. And they were kind of being silly, but it's like the stereotypes about Black people being menacing, like that paired with them just being able to change whatever words and stuff like that. I saw it firsthand be dangerous because literally the federal government's account was tweeting at him. And what it was threatening. And I remember I just, a lot of times I curse sometimes, not all the time, but I said, y'all are fucking harassing Black teenagers, because I kind of felt like, well, damn it, I'm an adult, and this is insane. Like if the federal government is bullying Black kids, like absolutely not. And we didn't even talk about ICE yet, but y'all more than welcome to break the ice on that topic.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Can we have you back on the show, Allison? I feel like we could talk to you forever. There's so much for us to like unpack. But so we're at the top of the hour, and we have one question that we like to ask everybody that comes on the show for the first time. Dana, I've been pitching it to you lately to ask the question.
I will ask this very hard-hitting question. It's a very lighthearted question we end our show on. We know you are not a member of Gen X, but you're close enough that we're still going to ask this question. What is the most Gen X song of all time? Like if you think of Gen X, you're watching a movie about Gen X, what song is going to put you right there?
I don't know, because I feel like even though there's a gap, it is a significant gap. It is a significant gap. I think it would have to be something like Linkin Park. I feel like in the 90s we were listening to a lot of good rock type bands, but it all depends on the genre, because obviously if it's pop, it's got to be something from Michael Jackson, right?
Yes.
And then you got Whitney Houston. You have so many people that were making good music at that time. Y'all were spoiled. Y'all were very, very,
we
very
were really spoiled.
It was the final era of true like diversity in mainstream music. Like
right.
Yeah, you could hear Van Halen next to Whitney Houston, next to Public Enemy. Like the span was broad, and over that decade or so, Lawrence, has anyone ever said "I Want to Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me" is the song? Because I feel like that's so iconic.
Yeah, I don't think anyone said it, but absolutely, like Whitney qualifies for sure, and that song in particular.
Yeah, that song in particular, like that comes on still, and people like.
We love it. In that music video with her hair and the colors.
Oh yeah.
Just stunning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have the big
iconic.
bow on in that one?
Yes.
You think the giant bow? Yeah, she was, like an incomparable talent.
Like, what a talented person.
Yeah.
You know, and what a loss. Like,
Allison, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us. Please,
yes.
please come back. There's so many good conversations I want to have with you, and you're just so much fun to talk to.
Thank you. I had a good time today too. I'm glad I have met you guys, and we'll do it
Likewise.
again whenever you guys.
Yeah, let's get something scheduled for early in 2026 because yeah, ICE.
New year.
A new
I
year.
know.
Good things, we hope.
I
Yeah.
know. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season in May 2026. Like, may we be on the may that moral arc of the universe start bending back up.
Bingo.
Yeah.
I'm not digging what 2025 has
Nope.
laid down for us at all.
Nope.
That trajectory,
long
please.
year. This year has been like 10 years.
Right. Right. I've aged 10 years in this 1 year alone, for sure.
Oh my God, right? We should take pictures of ourselves like sort of like
Before and
after.
after.
Straight on. Yeah, like
Mhm.
start of Trump, end of Trump.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. I've been trying to write back to all of your comments as you've been going, but I haven't been able to keep up because there's been so much great conversation. So thank you all for showing up, for contributing to this important conversation too. We love you all. Mean it. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Wiltz.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Love you, mean it. Bye. Mwah.